Have you ever imagined living in Europe, spending less than you spend today in your city? Renting a comfortable apartment for less than $400, eating out for 5 or 6, taking a taxi for 2, and still having money left over at the end of the month? Well, there is a place like that, and once you discover it, there's no turning back. Here, your money is worth twice as much, sometimes 3 times as much. Everything is cheaper, more peaceful, and simpler. And amid this affordable cost of living, you'll also find tradition, history, and landscapes that look like something out of an old postcard. We're talking about a country that has beaches in the summer, snow-capped mountains in the winter, green trails in the spring, medieval castles, Roman ruins, ski resorts, and, to top it all off, a lifestyle where your money really goes further. If this sounds like a dream, then it's time to start packing your bags. The destination? Bulgaria. Today, Bello Mundo will show you why this country hidden in the Balkans has become the darling of backpackers, digital nomads, and budget travelers, and has undoubtedly earned a reputation as the cheapest country in Europe, and perhaps one of the most surprising as well. Number 1. Overview. Bulgaria is one of those countries that hardly anyone puts on their itinerary. It doesn't have the glamour of France or the marketing of Greece or Croatia. But those who visit almost always ask themselves, how did I never think of this place before? And honestly, this oversight only benefits those who discover it. The country is located in the Balkans, in southeastern Europe, close to Greece, Turkey, Romania, and Serbia. It has beaches, mountains, medieval villages, big cities, and a cost of living that leaves anyone speechless. But the most impressive thing is the history of this place. Founded in 681, it is the oldest country in Europe that has never changed its name. In other words, it existed long before Paris was a city, London was an empire, or Berlin became a capital. And even after being ruled by the Thracians, Romans, Ottomans, and Soviets, Bulgaria remained standing in its own way. But Bulgaria does not live only in the past. In Sofia, the capital, everything seems divided between 2 worlds. On one side, communist blocs reminiscent of Soviet films. On the other, cool bars, colorful graffiti, trendy cafes, young people with headphones and a glass of rakia, the traditional spirit, in their hands. Outside the capital, the country is transformed. There are the Rila and Pirene mountains, perfect for hiking in the summer and skiing in the winter. There is the Valley of Roses, which produces the most expensive oil in the world. A liter can cost up to $6,000. And there is the Black Sea coast, with cities like Varna and Burgas, where you can enjoy European beaches without paying Paris prices. And if you're lucky enough to visit Bulgaria in January, you'll catch the Kukeri Festival, one of Europe's craziest traditions. Men dressed in animal skins, scary masks, giant bells tied around their waists, dance through the streets to scare away the evil spirits of winter. It's living folklore, a mixture of Viking ritual and pagan carnival. In short, Bulgaria delivers much more than it promises. And now that you understand the vibe of this place, with its ancient past, crazy traditions, and a landscape that changes every 100 kilometers, it's time to understand what makes it even more interesting: the cost of living here. Number 2. Good and cheap food. If Bulgaria already seemed interesting up to this point, when we start talking about prices, it simply reaches another level. It's like discovering a 5-star restaurant with a bakery menu. Everything, absolutely everything, costs less than you are used to paying. Whether you are from Brazil, Argentina, the United States, Spain, or Canada. And it's not just a feeling. It's official data. According to Eurostat, the statistical office of the European Union, the cost of living in Bulgaria is about 50% lower than the average for the countries in the bloc. And in some cases, the difference is even greater. And to start with, let's talk about something everyone loves: food. You know that basic getaway to a restaurant? Well, you know that full lunch at a restaurant that in some cities like New York and San Francisco would cost you an average of $25, not including drinks. In Bulgaria, it comes with an appetizer, main course, and drink, and costs, on average, $7. And it's not fast food. It's homemade food, well prepared, well served, and seasoned just right. An espresso costs $1.20. A bottle of good local wine costs between $3 and $4 at the supermarket. And it's not just any wine. You can get an award-winning Bulgarian label for less than $5. Want to fill your shopping bag at the market? A kilo of tomatoes costs less than $1. A liter of milk costs 70 cents. A loaf of artisan bread costs $1. Everything is fresh, tasty, and much more natural than the processed food you're used to. But that's not the only attraction. Number 3. Housing. Living in Bulgaria costs less than many people imagine. A furnished one-bedroom apartment with a living room, equipped kitchen, and private bathroom right in the center of the capital, Sofia, costs an average of $420 per month. If you go a little further out, in residential neighborhoods, this price drops to around $300. And we're not talking about slums. Many of these apartments come with central heating, high-speed internet, elevator buildings, and in some cases even balconies overlooking parks or mountains. Just to give you an idea, in New York, a one-bedroom unfurnished apartment in Brooklyn, Queens, or Harlem costs at least $2,000. And if it's in Manhattan, the price easily exceeds $3,000. No garage, no balcony, and often no luxury. The difference is huge. Living in Sofia costs 5, 6, even 7 times less than in large cities in the United States, and in many cases, with an even better quality of life. But if I haven't convinced you, would you like an example from within Europe? In Barcelona, a room in a shared apartment costs around $650. In Dublin, the price rises to around $1,100, at least. Meanwhile, in Bulgaria, a couple rents, pays all the bills, lives peacefully, and still has money left over to travel on the weekend. Number 4. Transportation. If transportation is usually one of the biggest expenses at the end of the month, in Bulgaria it simply disappears from the list of worries. Public transportation is simple, functional, and, above all, cheap. A single ticket in cities like Sofia, Varna, or Plovdiv costs, on average, 75 cents. This applies to buses, subways, and even electric trams, which, in addition to being practical, also give you that nostalgic European feel. For those who use transportation every day, the best option is the unlimited monthly pass. It costs only $25, and you can ride as many times as you want, with no extra fees and no surprises. Just for comparison, in New York, a subway ticket costs $2.90, and a monthly MetroCard pass costs $132 to ride the dilapidated subway. That is, if it isn't stopped or delayed, which incidentally is not uncommon. And this low cost is not limited to public transportation. Taxis are also extremely affordable. A standard 5-kilometer ride in Sofia costs on average between $5 and $8. And importantly, there are no surprises here. The meters work properly, the cars are standardized, and the prices are clearly displayed on the doors. Even tourists can ride with peace of mind. Now let's get to the comparisons. In New York, for a standard trip in Manhattan, for example, the same ride can easily cost over $20, even more during rush hour. Number 5. Leisure and entertainment. In Bulgaria, even going out to have fun feels like saving money, and the best part is that you have a good time without breaking the bank. Starting with the basics, a movie ticket in Sofia costs on average $7.50, and that guarantees a comfortable theater in a modern shopping mall with air conditioning, decent seats, and a full concession stand. In the US, the cheapest ticket costs on average $17. That's right, almost 3 times more. And it doesn't stop at the movies. Want to go clubbing, to a bar, or to a festival? Bulgaria offers a lively nightlife, but at happy hour prices. A local beer at a bar costs $2. A fancy drink, like a gin and tonic, costs $3. And there are clubs with free admission, or at most, $10 to see European DJs playing live. For comparison, in a large city in the United States, a single glass of beer on a rooftop costs $8 to $10, and clubs charge between $20 and $30 just to get on the dance floor. Now add to that the fact that many cultural events in Bulgaria, such as concerts, folk festivals, fairs, and street festivals, are free or symbolic. And access to traditional culture, typical cuisine, and local art is much more direct and accessible than in the trendy capitals of Europe. Even the gym fits into this bill. The monthly fee in the capital is around $20. New facilities, good equipment, and in some cases even a personal trainer is included. For those who work remotely or make a living from the internet, a cell phone plan with unlimited data costs less than $16 per month. And yes, the internet is fast and stable. In practice, what in many places would be a luxury, here becomes part of the routine. Number 6. Reasons. And now you must be wondering, why is everything so cheap? Well, there are several reasons. First, because Bulgaria officially has the lowest average salary in the European Union. A local worker earns an average of $1,000 per month, and the minimum wage in 2025 is around $400. This means that prices have to keep up with local incomes. If everything cost as much as it does in Paris, no one would be able to live there. So housing, food, transportation, and services are much more affordable, both for Bulgarians and foreigners. And of course, if you earn in euros or dollars, your purchasing power simply skyrockets. Second, even though it has been part of the European Union since 2007, Bulgaria has not adopted the euro. The currency there is the Bulgarian lev, and that makes all the difference. Not being in the Eurozone allows the country to better control inflation and keep the cost of living down. And that is exactly why eating, living, and staying in Bulgaria is still much cheaper than in places like Spain, France, or Germany. Third, tourism there is still quite moderate. Unlike Portugal, Croatia, or even neighboring Greece, Bulgaria has not become a target for mass tourism. Of course, there are foreigners visiting or even living there, but the cities continue to function at the pace of the Bulgarians themselves. And that keeps prices down. There is no crazy inflation that happens in cities crowded with tourists, where even water becomes a luxury item. And finally, there is another factor that weighs heavily: the brain drain and the aging population. In recent years, many young people have left the country to seek better wages in Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, or Scandinavia. This reduces domestic demand. There are fewer people to rent, fewer people consuming, and less movement in commerce. The result? Prices plummet. What's more, with so many villages emptied out, opportunities arise that seem too good to be true. There are old houses in the countryside that cost no more than $10,000. Some are even offered through government programs for those willing to renovate and live there. But obviously, it's not all roses. So far, I've presented the pros. Now it's time to talk about the cons. Number 7. Challenges and difficulties. To start with, there's the bureaucracy. Anyone who has ever had to start a business, deal with paperwork, or anything else formal knows how it can be, let's say, slow. Documents go missing, customer service seems stuck in the 90s, there's paperwork, stamps, systems that don't talk to each other, and that feeling that you're in the last century. Other than that, the infrastructure outside the big cities leaves a lot to be desired. In Sofia, Plovdiv, or Varna, you can find everything you need. But just drive half an hour into the country, and you'll see potholed roads, disappearing public transportation, and medical services that often can't even handle the basics. Another sensitive issue is corruption. For many years, Bulgaria ranked among the worst countries in the European Union in terms of perceived corruption. It's not hard to hear stories of bribery in public tenders, public works scams, political favoritism in positions of trust, the kind of thing that everyone pretends not to see, but everyone knows exists. There is also the brain drain, which is a huge problem. Many young, qualified people simply leave to earn more in Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, or the Nordic countries. And what is left? An increasingly aging population and villages that seem frozen in time. And, unfortunately, it's not that bucolic charm. It's real neglect. And of course, we can't ignore the issue of prejudice, especially against minorities such as the Roma communities, who still face exclusion, difficulty in accessing education, and, in many cases, abject poverty. But let's be clear, these problems do exist, as they do everywhere, including in countries considered to be first world. The difference is that, even with all this, you can still live in Bulgaria with a much higher quality of life and spend much less. So yes, living well in Bulgaria can be a bargain for those who earn in another currency. But for a large part of the local population, it's a daily challenge to make ends meet. And that's it for today. Now I want to know, would you trade your cramped apartment and expensive coffee for a simpler, more authentic, and more affordable life in the Balkans? Tell us in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this tour of one of the most unusual and affordable destinations in Europe, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. In the next video, we'll take you to another surprising corner of our Bello Mundo. See you then.